How you doing?
I'm good, Bryn. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm not wearing a pink suit because I'm in radio. You're in television. You look very sharp last night, by the way.
I loved it. I'll say this. I had a couple of Knights fans DMing me saying that it showed my bias because I didn't realize the Oilers' victory song was Pink Pony Club. So they thought I was wearing that suit because I was a member of the Pink Pony Club. And I said,
Really?
No correlation. I just like the suit.
Well, it looks sharp.
The suit was unbiased.
Absolutely, like you are. Hey, I got to get your thoughts on what's going on with the playoffs so far. Tell me your thoughts on this series between Vegas and the Edmonton Oilers. Are you surprised at what's happening here?
Not. I think the thing that surprised me is that Vegas would have looked that overwhelmed last night. And that's not taking anything away from what the Oilers did. But I think we've seen Vegas playing enough big games over the years that it's rare to see them be completely dominated in a game as big as that one.
Edmonton Oilers, by the way, struggled a little bit through the season, and everybody kept saying they were ready to roll in the playoffs, and we're seeing that for sure.
Yes, and it's a dangerous strategy. There's a lot of people who argue you can't just flip a switch in the postseason, but it's very clear that at one point this year, the Oilers said, look, we're not going to win the Pacific. Let's just get ready. Wherever we finish, and let's just get ready. And like I said, it can be a dangerous strategy because you can't always just turn it on, but it's worked. And I think one of the things that's really stood out is that a couple of guys who were banking on to get healthy and be impactful have done that. I mean, obviously Frederick is one. Kane is another. He's been fantastic. But it's pretty clear now, too, that even Zach Hyman was kind of pacing himself. Like, he's gone from less than one hit a game to leading the playoffs with 65. He's at 6.5 hits a game. Like, that tells you everything you need to know, that at some point the Oilers said, we know when we're going to be judged, and that's in May and June, and we're going to deal with everything then.
I felt like in November and December, it was just like they were thinking, we got to get through this. We just got to get through this, get to the postseason, and then we'll have to really turn it up and learn some of the lessons that we learned last year. And it seems to be working out that way.
Well, I think one of the things, Bryn, that it really showed to me, like I said, they completely dominated Vegas in a very important game. Again, look back over the last couple of years. How often has that happened? How often has Vegas been completely dominated in a meaningful game? Yeah, they lose, but they didn't often lose like that.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, and I think this is very important too, is that, they lost Game 3 in awful fashion. And I think in the playoffs, good teams, they don't allow those kinds of games to affect them mentally. And were the Oilers crushed by that? No, they weren't. They handled it. They're like, that sucks. That's a bad loss. But we're going to forget about it and we're going to move on. We're going to learn our lessons. And I think that's what good teams do. They realize that it's not how you lose, it's first to four. And even if you lose in a bad, crushing fashion, it doesn't matter if you show up to play the next game. And good teams do that. I remember I've talked about this a bit in the last 24 hours, but the first year I worked at Hockey Night was the year Tampa won the Stanley Cup the first time in 2004. And the second playoff series I ever did was Tampa-Montreal. And John Tortorella talked like that. He said, good teams do not allow negative momentum to hurt them from game to game. And I thought about Edmonton a lot like that after Game 3 and winning last night.
So taking that into consideration, I'm guessing that you're thinking that Vegas is going to come out like a house on fire tomorrow.
They have to because, A, they were awful last night, and B, if they don't, they're going golfing. So, you know that, I mean, I can't see anything else but them coming out and playing their hearts out tomorrow.
It was a big game for Stuart Skinner last night. I'm sure it was great for his confidence. It was great for the fans' confidence because it's a tough town here sometimes for goaltenders when things are going a little south.
What's the hardest job? Starting quarterback or goalie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people want to see Skinner do well. He's the number one goalie of your Oilers. And I think they want to cheer for him, right? I think the thing is that with some of the struggles he's had, you can feel the building and to some degree the team get nervous if it doesn't start well for him. I think the thing I really liked about last night was it wasn't a fluke shutout in the sense that he looked nervous or shaky. I thought he actually looked really good last night. Like, there was a play where the puck got flipped in from distance and it bounced in front of him. And Kelly and Kevin looked at it and they said, that's a really good save on a really crazy attempt. That kind of play can embarrass you. But he was dialed in and he made the save. Like, that was the thing. Like, I thought in game 3, he was kind of diving around at times or flopping. A couple went through him. He didn't look very confident. I thought last night he looked pretty confident.
Were you surprised at how they were able to shake off the previous matchup where they lost with 0.4 seconds to go? That's,
no.
You got to shake it off, right, in the postseason.
Like I said, good teams do that.
Yeah.
You're like, you look at you say, that's one loss, still up 2-1. I thought the bigger problem in that game 3, Bryn, was not that they lost with 0.4 of a second left. It's that they were up 2-0 and they took their foot off the gas. That was the bigger problem. Last night, they never took their foot off the gas.
I was suggesting that actually the third period was a little dull because they were doing such a great job of throwing a blanket over Vegas. It was a little bit on the dull side, but fans were happy with the result, that's for sure.
Oh, Bryn, like, what do you got? You're like the kind of guy, like somebody gives you like a diamond necklace and you're like, there's a scratch on this.
I tend to be more of a half full kind of guy, but it's funny how some of the fan base works, right?
Not that last question you was.
Hey, speaking of net minding, the Winnipeg Jets better get some net minding tonight. Not great on the road, but they got to find a way to win this one tonight.
Yeah, it's we were talking about Skinner. He needed a W anywhere. Yeah. Home, road, Earth, moon, another solar system. He just needed a W. Hellebuck's got to win on the road. I thought it was really interesting. We talked about Game 7 against St. Louis being the biggest game of his career. Blake Wheeler, who's done a great job with us, he talked about that before Game 3, that he actually thought that Game 3 in Dallas was the biggest game of Hellebuck's career because he had to win on the road. Well, they didn't win. I thought the Jets got a little bit unglued after that review, and then Rantanen walked in and scored on them. It'll be crazy. Like, Dallas is a great road venue. It'll be crazy there tonight. Heiskanen's returning after being out since end of January, like 4 months. It's going to be bananas in there. They just have to keep calm. Can't count.
Speaking of weird goals, that one that took almost 8 minutes to determine on, you had the opportunity last time you were on with us. You were talking about, being in the situation room and watching how they do things, how they handle things. What do you think they could have done better on that one? 8 minutes is a long time to wait. However, you got to get the call right.
Well, I'll say this. I did have one referee say to me, if the referees on the ice say that's not a kicking motion, you could have stopped it right there.
Okay.
Because if it's not a kicking motion, then it's a goal. Unless you're going to disagree with the referees, then that was the one constructive criticism I got.
Okay.
If the honest referees are going to say it's not a kicking motion, you could end it right there.
Speaking of goaltending, the Toronto Maple Leafs, how's that starting to work out now? Does it look like we're going to go back to normal, or are we going to continue to handle things the way we've been watching it over the last couple of games?
Well, Stolarz is now skating.
Yeah.
So it's obviously, but he hasn't done a main practice yet. I don't think Wool was the problem. I thought he was great in Game 4.
Yep.
They just got beat. So tomorrow night, I don't think you're going to see Stolarz. I think it's going to be Wool in a massive game for Toronto.
How's the market handling things there? Because a lot of people, I'm one of them. I thought this might be the year.
You know what? I think they're a good team.
I do too.
I really do. I think they're a really good team. But you got to win, right? They got up 3-0 on Ottawa. The Senators won 2, and they won it in 6. And the coach never lost calmness. The players never lost calmness. Obviously, this is a bigger, different animal, a more dangerous animal. They're still 2-2. But I think the one thing, but Canada, right? Like, The fans are like, oh no, they've lost 2 in a row. This is a disaster. That passion is the reason we all have jobs, Bryn.
Yes, it is.
I think one of the things that they're dealing with right now is that Matthews just hasn't scored.
Right.
And I think he's trying to do everything he can to be a great two-way center. I think he embraces that. But at the end of the day, he's paid to score, and he has to score.
Hey, one last thing before we let you roll. I was looking at one of your we wouldn't call them tweets anymore, but on X you were talking about offer sheet compensation levels, that kind of thing. Explain to everybody what you were talking about on that tweet.
So basically the way it works now, Bryn, is that every year the NHL puts out thresholds of what it will cost you to do an offer sheet. And it takes them, it's based on the league average salary and things around there. So at this time of year, every year, those thresholds are sent out. And every year they're a little bit higher because the salary cap has gone up. But basically, now you know what it will cost to do an offer sheet this year. And, for example, to do one without using a first rounder. And I will say this, some teams are really spooked because these would be 2026 draft picks. There are teams out there who are really spooked about the idea of of trading a first rounder or using a first rounder because of Gavin McKenna.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to give up the pick that turns into Gavin McKenna. But the most that you can spend without doing a first round pick is almost $4.7 million. It's $4,680,076. Anything lower than that, you can get away with either no compensation, a third round pick, or a second round pick. Anything more than that is going to cost you at least a first and a third. And anything over 11.7 is 4 first rounders. And the key thing to remember about this is that I did have some Oilers fans who didn't like that our editors put Evan Bouchard in the picture.
Yes.
I will say that. They did not like that. The thing you have to remember about this is that to figure out the value of an offer sheet compensation, it's the salary divided by whatever's less, the actual term of the deal, or 5 years. So even if someone says, say, to sign Bouchard to an 8 times 11.5 offer sheet, for purposes of that, it's valued at like $17 million. So some people will say, oh, you'll offer Bouchard 11.5, and it'll be 2 first, 1 second, and a third instead of 4 first rounders.
Yeah.
Well, if it's over 5 years, no, it isn't. So you have to keep all that stuff in mind.
Do you think this is going to be on the increase? Because, we often go quite a while between offer sheets, that type of thing. Well, we know what happened last summer around here, but do you see that this is going to be on the increase, or do you think they're going to be touching the brakes a little bit on this?
Well, I think one of the things that's different about that is that it showed that you didn't have to, you didn't have to just go to the absolute top and go for the biggest bomb of them all, right?
Right.
You can find players who are worth second-round picks or third-round picks, and they weren't the biggest. It wasn't like Philly offer sheeting Shea Weber. These were valuable complementary players,
right,
and it mattered. And I think that has changed things. But, Bryn, I'll say this, the cap going up, I think there are some teams who are vulnerable for next year, but more teams have more room because of how much the cap has jumped. So that's number one. Number two, like I said, that first rounder, if you're trading your first round pick in a year where Gavin McKenna is available,
dangerous.
You better be as sure as you can be. Every year we know, hey, San Jose this year, they knew they weren't going to be very good.
Yeah.
But look at the Rangers. There's always teams who maybe get injuries. You don't have a good year. And look, again, the lottery, both the Islanders and Utah moved up 10 spots. You better be sure that you are not going to be known as the person who traded the Gavin McKenna pick.
Hey, thanks for your time today. What's the color suit tonight?
It's blue with brown pinstripes.
Nice touch. Love it. Hey, great chatting with you as always. Appreciate it.
Take care, Brent. Be well, man.
All right, we will do that.